Good. All righty, good evening, everyone. And I want to thank all of our chairpersons. First of all, Happy New Year. I don't think, have I seen you out since the New Year? No. I can't remember. It's all a blur. Happy New Year. But I hope everyone had an enjoyable holiday season. Tonight we are pleased to be joined by New York State DOT and FloodNet NYC. We'll start with the New York State Department of Transportation. New York State DOT will offer an update on their 2025 capital projects. These projects support the agency's mission to provide a safe, reliable, equitable, and resilient transportation system that connects communities, enhances quality of life, protects the environment, and supports the economic well-being of New York State. Tonight, representing New York State DOT, we have Uchina Madhu, right? Gloria Reyes, and Susan McLean. DOT, you may take it away. I guess, is the Van Wyck on this? That was a joke, all right, got it, all right, I was gonna go on, all right.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. I'm here, as Borough President mentioned, representing New York State Department of Transportation to speak on our capital program. I will be speaking on behalf of all the, since I am the regional construction engineer, I'll be speaking about the current projects that are ongoing in construction. Gloria Mar will be speaking on the ongoing design projects. I'm here representing Eric Koster, our regional director, who will field all questions if you have any. Just joking. This slide you can make note of, if you don't know already, the state-owned roadways in Queens. Typically, we own the high-speed roadways. They are the roadways that we maintain and do capital improvement projects to. I'll be speaking on the large projects in construction, which you probably, a little louder, sorry. I'll be speaking about on the large capital improvement projects, which you probably are noticing on the roadways already. The first one I'll be speaking about is the Van Wyck capacity access improvements to the JFK. So I'll be talking about the two remaining projects. These two projects are part of the Van Wyck capital improvements access to JFK. There's a series of projects, as you know, that are ongoing. The purpose of the project is to increase capacity on the Van Wyck Expressway between Kew Gardens Interchange and JFK Airport to improve vehicular access to and from the airports. In addition, the project will address operational and geometric structural deficiencies on the Van Wyck between Kew Gardens and JFK Airport. Contract 2 has been ongoing. The good news is the completion date is currently fall 2025. Contract 2 dealt with the bridges that are really railroad bridges. We replaced the Long Island Railroad Bridge. We still are rehabilitating and retrofitting 2 additional Long Island Railroad bridges and replacing 1 bridge over the Van Wyck. It's really concentrated in that area where the railroads are going over the Van Wyck. Contract 3 is in construction right now. It really extends from the Kew Gardens interchange from Hoover Avenue down to Federal Circle being down at JFK Airport. This project will be adding an additional lane, a managed use lane with high occupancy vehicle restrictions on both sides of the Van Wyck Expressway. In addition to the main line widening, the project will reconstruct or is reconstructing, removing, and relocating the exit and entrance ramps within the project limits to address geometric and operational deficiencies. It will reconstruct and replace 8 existing bridges and construct 1 new bridge. Also noted that this project is adding noise walls. The noise walls, you can even see on that slide, have that clear plexiglass on top. I'm sure you've noticed this project, which is ongoing. The good news is the completion date is targeted for the winter, this winter, 2025-2026, so we're about a year away.
And there'll be no more construction on the Van Wyck?
I can't promise you that.
Can't promise. Okay, got it. All right. Trying to
But
get
it
you on
won't
the
be,
record.
it shouldn't be major construction
Okay.
of this nature.
They gotta rebuild what we built 10 years ago.
The next project that would like to talk about is the ongoing Grand Central Parkway project at really close to the city line at Winchester Avenue. This project is almost halfway done. It's targeted for spring of '26. This project is replacing the bridge decks of the Grand Central Parkway over Winchester Avenue by Alley Pond Park, the Cross Island Parkway, the Vanderbilt Shared Use Path Bridge, and one of the ramps that connects to the northbound Cross Island Parkway to westbound Grand Central Parkway. This project will include repairing the bridge decks at the Grand Central Parkway over Union Turnpike Bridge and the ramps which connects the southbound Cross Island Parkway Service Road over the Cross Island Parkway. In addition to all the structural deck work, the project will include other work on the Grand Central Parkway main line within the project limits, such as improving drainage, new street lighting, replacing ground-mounted signs and overhead sign structures, replacing damaged guide rail, and cleaning the existing closed drainage system. If you are driving in this area, you would have noticed that we have the ongoing project has shifted traffic to a new structure. The lanes are still narrow, but at least the new structure is open, and now they'll be completing the other half of the work. It's a big improvement if you go down in that direction. The new deck has no potholes, thank goodness. The next project of note in construction is the Oceana Street Bridge project and the mobility improvement project along the LIE. This project is to improve safety and reduce congestion on the eastern LIE between the entrance ramps from the southbound Clearview to the exit 29 ramp on Springfield Boulevard. The project is constructing new auxiliary lane, reconstructing 2 entrance ramps, 1 exit ramp, and improving the acceleration and deceleration lanes within the project limits. Additionally, the project will replace the bridge carrying Oceana Street Bridge over the LIE and reconstructing noise walls along the east and westbound LIE within project limits with a total noise barrier length of 6,500 feet that will reduce traffic noise for more than 300 residents. This completion date for this mobility improvement project is the winter of 2025-2026, so about 1 year away. The next project of note in Queens is the one that's on the LIE right now. It's called an active traffic and demand management implementation on the LIE Expressway. So for people who don't know what an active traffic and demand management implementation means, ATDM, that's the acronym for this, refers to a strategy in transportation management that actively monitors and influences traffic flow and travel demand in real time using various tools and technology to optimize system efficiency, improve safety, and reduce congestion by dramatically adjusting traffic controls based on counts, on current conditions, including things like adding variable message signs, lane closures, and traveler information displays to encourage route changes or mode shifts depending on the situation. So what this project is doing on the LIE will be adding cameras, variable message signs and detectors, communication, and electrical power conduits to help influence traffic. We are removing 7 overhead sign structures. You can see some of the new sign structures that will be installed. 11 new overhead sign structures with median barrier and guide rail will be installed on the LIE. You can see some of those overhead sign trusses along the LIE if you've driven it recently. And we will be redoing some of the landscaping associated with this work. The project is expected to be completed winter 2025, 2026, and then at that point, all the lane shifts that are currently on the LIE will be restored to its previous original configuration. One of the other projects that we have ongoing is a multi-bridge painting project. We had just completed a previous bridge painting project on the LIE where we painted three bridges in Queens between the Van Wyck and Casino Boulevard. The good thing is that you probably didn't even notice that we had done it because all this work is typically done at night. In that picture up in the upper right-hand corner, you can see on the LIE this was something typical that we did. All that work was done at night with a roll-in, roll-out system where, because on the LIE, lane closures are very tough, they need a lane closure in order to do the containment and paint the bridge. So typically this was done at night on the LIE. The three LIE bridges that will be painted under this painting project is the Casino Avenue Bridge, the 148th Street Pedestrian Bridge, and the 164th Street Bridge, and they'll be painted in that fashion of roll-in, roll-out with really no daytime peak impacts to the traveling public. The next ongoing, which just started to have a presence in Queens, is safety and mobility improvements. It's at the intersection of the Grand Central Parkway and LIE. The limits of the project are between Roosevelt Avenue and 67th Street. This is a safety improvement and mobility improvement project, which work consists of widening the eastbound LIE Horace Harding entrance ramp to the Grand Central Parkway eastbound. That's really that location in the left-hand corner where they'll be widening, improving that entrance ramp. Along with that, we'll be making some lighting improvements, guide rail improvements, drainage improvements, and installing new overhead sign structures and curbing improvements. That work, that's one of our shorter projects, should be completed by the end of the year. And the last project that I was going to mention that's in construction before I turn it over to Glorimar is the standby where and when. This is really a response contract. So when we notice that there is some deteriorated pavement such as the conditions noted in the four bottom pictures, a work order would be issued to this project. This project just completed a work order. We milled and paved east and westbound Grand Central Parkway from Main Street to 168th Street. We just completed that and put pavement markings right before the holiday season. So you'll notice some improvement on that pavement on the Grand Central Parkway. If there is any other deteriorated pavement of note, it could be done on this standby where and when project that we have available with funding. And that is all the projects that I have, capital improvement projects of note. I'll turn it over to Glorimar to speak of projects in design.
Thank you, Susan. Good evening, and thanks for having us here today. My name is Glorimar Reyes, and I'm the Director of Design at the New York State DOT in Region 11, and I'm going to be talking about the projects that we have in design. So the first project we're going to be talking about is X03416, which is the southbound Clearview Expressway exit to 73rd Avenue ramp widening and mobility improvements. This project is expected to alleviate the congestion at the southbound Clearview Expressway exit to 73rd Avenue by widening the exit ramp terminus to 2 lanes, one that will go eastbound on 73rd Avenue and the other one exclusively for the right turns on 73rd Avenue. These improvements are expected to increase safety and provide better access to 73rd Avenue. The letting for this project is the letting is upcoming now in the winter 2024-2025, so this is happening soon, and completion in the spring of 2026. It is about, the cost is approximately between 5 and 10 millions. So the next project that we're going to be talking is M2448, which is a pavement preservation asphalt. This project will extend the service life of the current pavement, asphalt pavement, on state highways in Queens by repairing or resurfacing the asphalt pavement that are showing distress and deterioration due to normal wear and tear, aging, and weather conditions. This slide depicts the locations. We have about 5 locations, all within Queens County, are depicted over here. The letting is upcoming also in the winter of 2024-2025, and the completion in the summer of 2027, with a cost between $10 and $20 million. So the next project is the X73152, which is the rehabilitation of the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway Viaduct over Laurel Hill Boulevard between 47 and 58th Street. So this project will rehabilitate the BQE viaduct over Laurel Hill Boulevard by replacing the existing concrete deck or the riding surface, and repairing or replacing the existing steel supports to extend the service life of this section of the BQE. The letting is in the spring of 2025, so also soon, and the completion in the spring of 2028, with a cost between 100 and 200 millions. So next project is XM2547, which is a pavement preservation, also asphalt, but specifically for the Jackie Robinson Parkway and the BQE. This project also will extend the service life of these, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So this project will extend also the service life of those sections of the state highway system, due to the same situation, wear and tear, aging, and weather conditions. The sections are depicted here, which are the Jackie Robinson Parkway between Broadway Junction and, I don't see very well. Yeah, but close to the KGI. And Jackie Robinson Park, the BQE, there's a section between Brooklyn, the westbound and eastbound from 45th Street and 50th Street, and the other location is also on the BQE from Woodhull Street to President Street. The next project is X73586, which is a flood mitigation project at various locations in Queens. The locations included here are the Van Wyck. You mentioned something about the Van Wyck. There is another one coming. Yeah, so this is, we're trying to address flooding situations, recurrent flooding conditions, which I'm sure everybody will be happy with addressing. This first location, the Van Wyck, you could see here some pictures showing the condition of the roadway during storm events. And the other location is the LIE, as depicted over here, the north on the top left picture. The GCP section, eastbound, and that will be it for this particular project. The letting is in the winter of 2026-2027, with a completion date in the winter of 2029-2030, and the cost between 50 and 100 millions. Next project is another flooding project. It's a drainage and storm resiliency improvement on the BQE between 58th Street and Grand Central Parkway. So this project includes about 13 locations within this project limits. And over here you could see some pictures of 4 of these locations showing the you know, how serious the flooding can get in some of these locations. We're expected to improve those conditions with a letting in the winter of 2026, 2027, and a completion in the winter of 2028, 2029, with a cost of between 50 and 100 millions.
Walked in right on time.
X22876 is the Queens Midtown Viaduct painting and steel repairs, which, as the title says, is going to be painting the viaduct and doing some steel repairs on this viaduct. The letting is the winter of 2027, 2028, completion in the winter of 2029, 2030, and a cost between 100 and 200 millions. And the last project I'm going to be talking about is X80749. Is the expansion of the intelligent transportation system along the Clearview Expressway and Grand Central Parkway phases 1 and 2. This project will expand the ITS network through the Clearview Expressway and in a section of the Grand Central Parkway. The section in the Clearview is between the Cross Island Parkway and the GCP, about 5 miles. And the GCP is between the Kew Gardens interchange and the Clearview Expressway for about 4 miles. This project will add ITS elements, including closed-circuit television, CCTV cameras, variable message signs, or VMS, and new gantries. There will be also a new permanent conduit system installed to support these ITS elements, with a fiber optic trunk cable installed for the entire length of each highway. This project is expected to enhance data sharing capabilities, improve traffic monitoring, and facilitate coordinated responses to incidents. The letting for the project is in the spring of 2029, completion in the spring of 2032, and the cost between 50 and 100 millions. So this completes the presentation of the projects in design, and if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Just have a few, and thank you for these projects. And we have a running slogan in Queens, Queens get the money. So we clearly are getting a lot of that, and necessary being that we're on the forefront of climate as well. So very, very good report. I just had two, and I think Brian could probably speak to this one, Laurelton Parkway. So we do get some tidal flooding, I believe. NYC DOT said they were going to be doing some work. So I just wanted to flag that. And then I wanted to flag, what's the Laurelton Parkway exit? That's dangerous. Right off the Merrick Boulevard exit. Do we know? So so I know you're doing some entrance ramps, and that one needs to really be replaced. It's really dangerous for drivers.
You said that was
Laurelton Parkway. I'm going to get you the exact entrance
Okay.
ramp. You know the number? I can't, I'm blanking on the number, but we'll get you the number to the ramp. I think that ramp and the ramp after it, which is Rosedale, going off of Brookville Boulevard. There's a lot of accidents at those locations. And then, once again, we do get some tidal flooding going off of the Brookville exit of Laurelton Parkway as well. So I just wanted to flag those three things, but I was very happy to see a few of the flood-prone locations here, on the BQE especially, that we always encounter. So it's really welcome news on these projects. I'll go to you, Gary. Just wait till you speak. Wait till, just because we're live streaming.
Vincent Arcuri, Community Board 5. Could you go back to slide 16, please?
I don't see the numbers from here. Two more? Ah, okay.
Okay, so on the top side, the bottom of that project, neither of you mentioned the current or planned project for redoing the entrance from Jamaica Avenue onto the Jackie Robinson just off Pennsylvania Avenue. How does it tie in, and what's the timing on the two of them working together? I don't know the number, I'm sorry.
Okay. So you said that's a construction project?
It's a
right now?
project that was presented to us at Committee Board 5, that you would be redoing the entrance from Jamaica Avenue, I guess you would call it the eastbound Jackie Robinson, just north of Pennsylvania Avenue.
Jamaica Avenue to Jackie Robinson. Entrance Jamaica Avenue to Jackie Robinson?
No, it's just the redoing the entrance. Right now, you go north on Pennsylvania Avenue, and you enter the Jackie Robinson Parkway. If you're going westbound on Jamaica Avenue, you have to make a loop, right turn, to get onto the Parkway, going east. So there's an entrance, they're putting in a whole entrance lane, and it doesn't show in either current or projected that you're giving us today, and I'd like to know what
Oh, wait a second.
the status of that is, please.
Oh, he's talking, I think, about Lex project,
This
the
is,
Jackie
this is
Robinson.
at Jamaica Avenue and the Jackie Robinson
From
Parkway.
westbound Jamaica Avenue to eastbound Jackie Robinson.
All right, they'll try to get that answer. If
Yeah,
not,
I
we'll
think
get back
that's
to you.
this project. That we're adding an acceleration lane, expanding an acceleration lane. Is that the project? That's the project in construction
Is
that
that-
just started, Lega's project.
If
Is-
we
is
could
that
take
in
a look,
Brooklyn?
We can get back to you.
Yeah, we'll need to get
So you
back to
you wanna know the status for that project? Okay.
And how it ties into this one.
Is that in Brooklyn?
Yeah,
I guess, oh, you know,
we're talking about, that's Brooklyn,
yeah,
right?
that's why we geared our presentation for Queens. So this seems to be in Brooklyn, you're speaking of.
Once you get into Jamaica Avenue, it's Queens.
Okay, but we have an ongoing project in Queens. We'll get back to you. Yeah. Because we flagged all the projects and discussed everything in Queens. But we'll find out the status on that one.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Frank Taylor, Community Board 3. Thank you guys for being here, and I made sure I got here today out the eye doctor because this was important. Over in Community Board 3, we're having 3 stadiums now, 4 stadiums. We have the tennis center, we have the new soccer stadium going in, the Mets are expanding. Is there anyone talking about extending or doing anything with the Grand Central besides the New York Mets?
Speaking of
As far as
doing
extend-
something,
As far as extending it, as far as the traffic over there is horrendous. If you put more exits on there, if you put more entrance ramps over there, it would be more accessible. Is anybody looking at that? I guess everybody's looking at you. Okay.
The Mets do have a plan, but I don't want to gamble on that because if it doesn't happen, so you're correct. Like
Right.
if it doesn't happen.
Right, but even though
but
we
the-
still
but
have City
will have-
Field there, and you have Seaver Way, Roosevelt, which is, or we all know is inundated. You have one-way Seaver Way, and then you have Northern Boulevard. The traffic over there, if you're trying to get to an emergency, if you're trying to get anywhere during game days, it's impossible. So if you're going to put the stadium there, which is already building, is anybody looking at extending the Grand Central, different ramps, different on-ramps, off-ramps, any sort of your transportational wizardry?
I cannot tell you in details now, but as I cannot speak in details now, but I know that we are looking at it. Before anything happens there, we're gonna look at the traffic and what the impacts are.
They're already doing it. That's
We
why.
are, we are looking at all the developments that are coming up.
Okay, because you
Yeah.
realize you're also going to have a senior housing center there. They're going to put another hotel
There's
there.
a casino coming up and all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Mohammed Sadiq, borough engineer. We had a meeting with the state DOT regarding the Willis Point Accessway. We noticed that Grand Central, about your location, the Willis Points and the Met Stadiums area, we have two zones of redevelopment is going on. So on Grand Central Parkway, bounded by Grand Central Parkway, Whitestone, Expressway and the Van Wyck. So they have a exit and entrance ramp on Grand Central towards the Met Stadium, on the on the Van Wyck Expressway. There is a no exit and entrance ramp there. So we had a meeting with the state DOT last April, and we collect all informations from the EDC, the environmental assessment statement, and state DOT send us a checklist, and we work out everything from our part, and we also review our mapping. We deals with the mappings, and we review all our maps around this area, and there is a feasibility to have an exit and entrance ramp on Van Wyck Expressway.
Yeah, I think what Mohammed is saying, we did environmental assessment with EDC more than 10 years ago. But it came back.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have a current, yes.
I know. We gave you the checklist, what you need to do for that, right?
Yeah, we have with our hand all this information.
Yeah.
If you want, we can proceed.
Yeah, I just want to say that I appreciate you guys to know when. This is my last meeting as chair also. So my 3 years is up. But the timing, see, even the projects you're talking about now, you're talking about 2029, 2027. What do people do in between that time?
There's a lot of work that has to go into this, so it's not like you just throw a ramp on. So it's going to take some time.
10 years. That was, what's this?
I wasn't here 10 years
25?
ago. Sorry,
Yeah,
I can't
25.
speak for that.
Not you.
But
I'm glad you're
what
here.
I'm saying is,
I'm glad you're here. But
unfortunately, there's a lot of things that needed to happen more than 10 years ago, but we're here now. And Mohammed, who does the mapping with all the agencies here, he's the borough's engineer, if you don't know him. You go upstairs and take a look at his maps. And I looked at all of the maps, and yes, it is true that Steve Cohen had some ideas, but we also have an idea for a ferry running there, so we're working extremely close with EDC. So we can leave it at that. I don't want to get into a long debate tonight on that, but it is something that's, as you can see, in motion. It won't happen overnight. Heather.
First of all, thank you for that great presentation. It's super encouraging to see all of this work getting done and to know how that's going to really pay off for folks in Queens and folks that travel to and from Queens. So thank you for that. Something I would love for you all to consider, and this is a great challenge, is figuring out a way to provide sound abatement along I-495, specifically between the Woodhaven Boulevard exit and the big interchange where we come up upon the Flushing Meadow Park. That area goes through a lot of black and brown communities. There's two schools, one to the left, one to the right of the I-495. There's 220, and then there's the business and arts, I believe. On the other side, there's Flushing Meadow Park itself. We have a new affordable housing with the FIPS being built there. We have people living there, and we've been asking for this for some time, because sound abatement won't just provide sound abatement, it will also help with the fumes. You know, we're still using cars that use gas, and so that continues to push really fumes into our schools, where our children are sort of sitting ducks. So this is something we would really appreciate. We're also asking for it along the Jackie Robinson that runs through Queens Community Board 6, and we think that's going to be a little easier because you've actually got terrain to work with. The area that I'm asking for on the I-495 doesn't really have, you know, it's a raised, basically a highway. So I'm sort of asking you to build midair, but I'm sure there's a way for it to be done. I'm not the engineer. But that's something I'd like you to consider. The second thing is I'd like for maybe if we could request, I know if it was New York City DOT would ask for a study sort of on the lanes on the I-495 coming towards Woodhaven Boulevard from the city, these solid white lines, and then going in the opposite direction as you're looking to change lanes for the BQE. They go far too long, which then causes folks to cross solid white lines in order to make that exit. And it also causes folks to to sort of bunch up in places that are already clogged. And if there was more time being provided where that solid line was shorter and folks could merge earlier, it would be a lot safer for folks. So it would be wonderful if you guys could sort of study those lanes that go between sort of Junction Boulevard towards the BQE, and then that are coming towards from the city, specifically towards the Woodhaven Rockaway Queens Boulevard exit. Thank you.
All righty, is that all? Well, I want to thank State DOT for being here. It's really a pleasure and honor having you, coming, bearing all of this good news. We look forward to following up on a few of those items. I got to move on. But you could ask them on the side. All right. All righty. All right.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to now move on to FloodNet. All right, we're ready. Right, the FloodNet team is composed of researchers at NYU, CUNY, and New York City government agencies, collaborating with local stakeholders to collect and share data that contribute toward flood risk mitigation and building community flood resilience. We will hear a presentation by FloodNet detailing their mission to develop tools for real-time urban flood monitoring and implementing those tools in New York City neighborhoods. FloodNet will also review steps that they've taken to make flood data and monitoring tools more accessible and useful to local communities, including residents, community-based organizations, and government agencies. Here tonight on behalf of FloodNet, we will have Brett Bronco, Veronica Ignis, Polly Pierron, and Haley Elsaz. Hopefully I didn't chop up your names too bad. But thank you for being here. It's been an honor to work with you over the course of being borough president. Thank you for the work you're doing. Please take it away.
Thank you so much for having us today. I want to thank all of you who are present, and we look forward to talking and representing the FloodNet project on behalf of what is a larger team than just the three of us sitting here. Again, my name is Veronique Ignace, and I work as the Community Engagement Manager at FloodNet. To my left is Dr. Brett Branco, who is the Executive Director of the Science and Resilience Institute at Jamaica Bay Brooklyn College. He's been in that position since 2019. And also serves as faculty at Brooklyn College and the CUNY Graduate Center. On my right, we have Polly Peroni, who works as our project manager, but also supports many of the project logistics, plans, and analysis related to sensor deployment across the 5 boroughs, as well as external communications to our city agency partners. And I personally haven't arrived to 2025 yet, so this is the wrong date. That's supposed to say today. So for those of you, yes. For those of you that don't already know, the FloodNet project is one that is being conducted in partnership with academic researchers at CUNY, across many CUNY universities, including being co-led by Dr. Ricardo Toledo Crow at the CUNY Advanced Science Research Center in Manhattan, and Dr. Andrea Silverman, who works with NYU's Tandon School of Engineering. We work very closely with the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, New York City Office of Technology and Innovation, and alongside DOT in order to get our sensors up and running. But essentially what we're doing is developing tools to monitor flooding in real time. And we do that through the development of flood sensors in-house, as well as a public-facing data dashboard where information from those sensors are uploaded in real time. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. These, again, are some of the core partners that work very closely with us, and there is a community of organizations, residents, and boards across the city that we are also working with as well to guide and inform what we do. So I'm going to pass it to Dr. Branco in order to talk a little bit about his role.
Thank you. And yeah, again, thanks again for having us here tonight. I just want to talk just briefly about the Institute and maybe a little bit about the origin of the FloodNet project. I think it's important to center the role of communities. So the institute, the Science Resilience Institute, is a CUNY-wide institute. So we're hosted at Brooklyn College, but we work very closely with, Queens College, Queens Borough Community College, the Advanced Science Research Center. So we work with all CUNY faculty and students. And our role is to basically operate at that boundary between science, community, and policy. So we try to address the problems that communities have by working with them and with government agencies, for example, and support that with research, education, et cetera. And I think that's important because the FloodNet project, at least in part, emerged from work that we had been doing for years in communities, mostly around Jamaica Bay, who had been experiencing tidal flooding, storm flooding. I see Betty here, so we worked very closely with Howard Beach and Hamilton Beach, for example, just trying to better understand the flooding that people were experiencing, the impacts that it was having, and trying to develop ways to help people deal with these issues. So that, the FloodNet kind of really emerged from that work, and I think that's important to understand what we do. And currently, again, so right now FloodNet is primarily funded by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, and with that funding, we are trying to deploy up to 500 sensors across the city, all 5 boroughs, places that experience tidal flooding, stormwater flooding during extreme rainfall events, coastal flooding due to nor'easters, things like that. And we currently have 246 sensors deployed, so we're kind of right on schedule with that, so we're halfway there. And this map here just shows you the distribution of sensors that we have throughout the city. Again, we're trying to make sure that we hit all 5 boroughs, that we hit places where it's hard to prioritize because there's so many issues across the city. But and the URL right there at the bottom allows you to bring up that dashboard with those images in real time, and you can see what's happening locally.
Yes, I think if you have the printout map or the printout of the slides, there is the previous slide has our sensor map, and then it also has a link to our data dashboard, which is dataviz.floodnet.nyc, which has that map as well. So, and we also, to just flag, so 86 of our sensors are in Queens. That's the largest number of sensors of all the boroughs. Queens is winning right now. Just wanted to report that to you all. Well, absolutely.
Our first sensor was in Queens.
Absolutely.
The very first one that we installed was in Queens.
This is true. Yeah, Brett said our first sensor was in Queens as well, and you're absolutely right. It's a win and a loss. We understand that very well. So speaking of that, we wanted to flag a recent installation that we did actually in partnership with New York City DOT along Brookville Boulevard. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Brookville Boulevard. Yes. Okay. So it's a request we've gotten for a long time from residents, from DOT, DEP, and we recognize there's a safety hazard, a big safety hazard during both tide events and rain events. So it actually took us a couple of tries to get sensors out on Brookville Boulevard, but now we have 3 sensors mounted along the boulevard. Again, those can be viewed on our website, and they will measure that flooding to hopefully, DOT is going to reference that data in their upcoming work on Brookville, but also we hope folks can consult the sensor data, perhaps even when making decisions about driving on the road going forward. So that's a very exciting development. And then here is a screenshot of our data view page. So when you go to that map, the online dashboard, and you click on one of the icons, you can then visit this page for a given sensor. So this is during a high tide event back in November of last year, and you can just see, a series of 8 floods on consecutive high tides throughout the day over the course of a week. So this is just an example of what we've been measuring so far, and we're going to continue to take measurements there. Next slide. And then there are a lot of different ways folks can access our data. Like I said, we have a data dashboard. We also have a partner project that makes, yes, neighborhood reports, which we have here. We can pass some of those around. So we'll talk. Okay, talk more about them later, but you can start passing these around. That's, yeah, just sort of a printout format. What did you say? Together? Pass the papers around together. Could you say that? Oh, yes. Okay. I think I'm being instructed to keep them together. Are they different ones? Okay, sorry. They're from different, a few different neighborhoods, I think. Yeah. Sorry. So yes, so those are just a printout that kind of summarizes some sensor data alongside photo reports that are submitted by community members. And then there are a few other ways folks can download our data. That information is all accessible through our website, and we also have our agency partners working on some other tools to distribute the data and integrate it into their operations as well. So it's the use cases are continuing to expand, which is really great. Next slide. This I think we can skip over. No, we should talk about it. It's not available to folks. That's it. Okay. So one of those use cases that I talked about is an alerting tool. Right now it's in beta mode, so we're still making sure that it works the way that we want it to, but we send out alerts to a lot of, again, our agency partners each time we detect a flood. So we have some tools that help us understand when our sensors are actually measuring flooding, and hopefully this is something that we'll be able to expand and that can go public in the future. And this, again, is just some more information about how the alerting is triggered, getting a little bit more in the weeds there. And a screenshot of what that alerting email currently looks like. Yeah.
Thank you, Polly. So part of why we wanted to share this information is to ensure that we understand here not just that the team is working on developing tools and sensors that we're deploying into the street, but that we're hoping that with the kinds of relationships we can build across the city with city agency partners and those of us in the room, that we can start to get an understanding of how these sensors will be useful. I think I can speak on behalf of all of the team and my work doing community engagement on this project that it's not enough to just have the technology. We also need to be able to cultivate ways, one, for people to use it and inform what we're creating and what we're building based off of the experiences that residents are having every day, and also getting a sense of what kinds of outputs can happen from this project that would be meaningful. This alerting email is one of them, and as Polly mentioned, it is in progress and is not yet available to the public, but having a sense that there is a future where the flood sensors can communicate with each other and offer alerting is something that we're building toward. And so we have included a slide which we can collect feedback on either today or at a later date about how flood sensor data might be useful to all of you, and understanding better what kinds of use cases can that data serve. Is it something where the sensors that we're putting out and deploying can inform day-to-day decision making, or is it more useful to build these sensors and use the information in such a way that allows, for example, those of you working on the community boards to communicate better with city agencies and communicate those needs. And so really briefly, I wanted to offer some information about what we're doing in that same vein to support the project and support the technology here. Our community engagement offering and programming is currently organized into 3 parts. One is focused on outreach, the other on education, and finally on ensuring that we are being as transparent as possible to inform actions that community-based organizations can take with the data and with what we're developing. And so we have materials and educational tools that we're consistently building in collaboration with community partners, and we have the support of the mayor's office in translating those to the top 10 languages. We have since learned that that is not enough. Right? Especially not for Queens. And so we have had to rely heavily on other community partners to do their own translation of our materials and support us in being able to disseminate that. And some of the key learnings that we have collected over time since this offering, this programming of community engagement has existed at FloodNet, which was in this capacity since March of 2023, is that oftentimes it's very difficult to have people mobilize on flooding if they're experiencing it all the time. You have I think you all know very well in Queens that the communities are being burdened by this, and that generates a type of fatigue where we are not getting enough information about where flooding is happening and how, or we may be just hearing from one group all the time. And then this is being paired with other parts of the city and other boroughs where they're just experiencing flooding and they're kind of being new to this. And so we're finding that it's really important to think about how FloodNet sits in that space and what we're learning across that. Some of the things that I think would be important for this room are the questions that we've been hearing about flood insurance and what that might mean as flooding continues to be an issue, and also what that might mean to have sensors on the ground collecting data. Will that be impactful for people's flood insurance and capacity to be a homeowner? And all of these are on the paper slides. If you have specific questions, please let us know. We also have examples that are publicly available of neighborhood profiles that our community engagement team has built. They are meant to show sort of a snapshot of what the flooding experiences has been in specific neighborhoods. And this is something that came out of the partnerships that we've built, where folks were finding that it's not very common knowledge that flooding is happening, even if you see it all the time. That may not be the terminology that people are using. They are so used to the water that it's not even considered a flood anymore. And so we've been tasked with kind of co-developing and co-producing these educational tools that can be shared. Neighbors can share among themselves or in meetings as well, but that also can demonstrate what we're learning about the neighborhoods that are flood prone in New York City. And then finally, one other educational example you have in front of you is one that was built in partnership with Regional Ready Rockaway, and it focuses specifically on how we make considerations for mental wellness in disaster plans. And this was a call out because many residents that are facing flooding all the time or that have experienced extreme flood events have a sort of trauma associated with that, where they're not able to mobilize or may not be interested in doing so. Or the consistent pictures like the ones that were circulating on September 29th of the whirlpools in New York City were enough to keep people from wanting to engage in meetings. And so what could we build using our information to do so? We have other educational offerings that we've built as well, which I'll skip, that are happening in schools and other community spaces. And finally, this example of the report that you have in front of you, which was led by New York Sea Grant, but done in collaboration with the Science and Resilience Institute and our FloodNet team as well, to pair information from our sensors with 311 data and the results of photos that residents were taking and submitting to MyCoast. And so one of the things that we hope to leave this meeting with understanding is how any of these resources that we're building could be useful to you all, if at all. And if there may be other types of community engagement tools or educational tools that we can create that could be of service beyond the duration of the project. And so I will leave this here. This is a QR code where we continuously collect suggestions about where sensors should go and can go. As mentioned before, we have our mandate to to 500 sensors across the city and hoping to distribute that in an equitable way. But more information is always important to help us do this work. So thank you.
Yeah, we'll move on to questions. I see Vincent.
It doesn't appear there are any sensors west of 116th Street on the peninsula. And you have quite a residential area there. And there's a yeshiva, 2 shopping districts, 116 and 129. Do you think there should be some sensors there?
You're saying no. Okay. Would you like to provide more context for us before I answer the question?
Sure, thanks. So my name's Laura Soar. I'm Chair of Community Board 14, which is the Rockaway Peninsula and Broad Channel. So I'm going to say we used to have 6 sensors. I see from the map we're up to 12 sensors. Broad Channel will always have flooding because just they're an island unto itself, 3 blocks wide. But DOT, New York City DOT, has been doing a fabulous job working with us to raise the streets, and it has made a significant difference. So we're continuing with that as long as the money holds out. And so that has something that has worked. So throughout the rest of the city, there may be an opportunity to follow that example. Most of the flooding with high tides and full moons and new moons, all of those, not events, but the day-to-day flooding does occur east of the Cross Bay Bridge, which is 94th Street, so everything east. West, it occurs occasionally in the streets, but not to our worst street on the peninsula is Beach 84th Street, from Beach Channel Drive to the Bay. In a 3-year period, they have had 126 floods. The sanitation truck got washed away while they were trying to plow the snow. Children had to be rescued by a police car when they were trying to go to school. So that's a street that has been identified for easily 15 years, and the city has yet to do anything about it. So the flooding with the tides is east of 94th Street. West of 94th Street is really an event. You know, when the bay raises so high that the outfall from the storm sewers close off so that the bay doesn't back up into the streets, and therefore the storm sewers get full, and yes, they have street flooding. So there is not, in my opinion, I've only lived there 70 years, in my opinion, the recurring flooding issue, not event issue, is east of 94th Street. Just one other comment, I apologize. Reddy Rockaway, I don't know if you know that Dr. Williams has passed away. So I would ask that you make your connection with Community Board 14, because I don't know where that organization stands right now. Okay, so if we would be the point of contact, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Brian Block, Chair of CB13. I want to thank you for giving that information. Thank you and DOT for what you've been doing. The sensors along, as we call it, Brookfield Boulevard that we share, Snake Road. You said the alerts are not operating right now. They're not. When will they be up and running? Because this would be extremely valuable to Dolores' board as well as my board if the alerts were up and running. Because many times, if I'm leaving, I'm in Cambridge Heights, and if I'm leaving trying to go over to Far Rockaway, you find that it's flooded by the time you're in the middle of Snake Road. And then you're stuck. And then everyone's backing up to get out of Snake Road because you can't go any further. And if you're coming out of Rockaway, right, Dolores, and you end up in the middle coming from, and you get on Snake Road, you're also stuck also because there's no alert. So can you say when, and I appreciate the presentation, but when will these alerts be up and running? And what about 147th Avenue in Rosedale? I just want to throw that out there. What do you think about sensors being along 147th? I mean, this would be really interesting for the Rosedale Civic for you guys to come and speak to them since they have a lot of flooding. But I know the 147th Avenue, even though DOT, they've left, is doing a lot of work over there and upgrading the roads and raising the roads. They still have a problem over there in the flooding area. So about the alerts, I'd be really, could I take that back and say if and when, I shouldn't say if, when will these alerts be up and running?
Yeah, thank you. It's hard to say exactly when, right? We're going to be able to release the alerts in a more public way. The reason is we don't want, the research team is still working out, we don't want to send false alerts out, right? So we're trying to be conservative. We don't want to develop an alert system that sends out a lot of false alarms to people because then people will start to ignore them and not believe it when an actual flood is happening, right? So we're being very cautious and making sure that everything works, that works well before we release it. Right now, we send alerts to ourselves and we send it to some of our agency partners who, when we get an alert, we go in, we check the maps, we check to see, if it's a real flood or is it just a sensors malfunctioning or some other kind of interference. So we're still kind of working out the bugs in that alert system. So, but we can, but in terms of, I don't know if we actually have any idea of exactly when we're going to be able to. No, okay, yeah, but we're hoping soon. Yeah. No, but it's a priority, right? Because we understand that that's one of the that's one of the really valuable functions that these sensors can serve, is to alert people. We've heard people suggest things like, can we tie a sensor to a sign at the end of a road that can flash warnings when there's water on the streets, right? So that people will know before they go down the road. So that's something else that we've been hearing from people and talking about. So yeah, we don't want to. I think the message is we don't want to send out an alert system until we've got all the bugs out of it, but it's definitely a priority. We also, by the way, know that not everyone is going to want to get their alerts through a phone. That's something that we've heard a lot too, right? Which is why we have to think about things like signs and other things that can help.
Signs would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a quick word about sensors, right? Because, again, we're only halfway to deploying the 500, that we plan to. And we have a list. I don't know how many potential locations are on our list, but it's over 1,000, right? So, so we look at that list all the time. We try to, plan when we can send out our team of field engineers to go out and deploy them, right? There's some coordination involved in that. So, over the next 2 years, some of the places where people are thinking, oh, there ought to be a sensor there, there might be one there in 4 months or 5 months when we're able to get to it, right? But so it's going to take some time to get them all up, but when we have 500, I think we'll have most of the really bad areas covered. We hope, right?
Go to Frank.
First of all, thank you for having the presentation, but there's a couple of things I didn't understand. Hello? Okay. Yeah, I got it. The question I have is, on these sensors, do you share the data with insurance companies and different things like that? Because I heard you bring that up, but I didn't hear an answer to that.
So to clarify the point, the question about insurance was coming from residents as to whether or not having the sensors on the ground would impact their insurance. The data that we have is openly available, so it's not that we're actively sharing it with insurance companies. We have a public-facing dashboard, and the state of the project right now is that you can request full data access to be able to use it for whatever purpose, but we don't have a process or pipeline for our data to insurance companies.
No, but the data is public.
Right.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking is because my area, East Elmhurst, Corona, and Jackson Heights, we've had a lot of insurance companies canceling homeowner policies because they said now it's a flood zone. Even though you live across from the Grand Central and there's another road and there's another road, now it's a flood zone. So I was trying to figure out, was your data, I don't see anything in East Elmhurst or Corona. And we're actually happen to be the catch basin for all of Queens. So I didn't really get that either because the sewer problems over there are horrendous. DEP has a program that they said in 10 years, they'll replace the sewers with single sewers instead of the double sewers, which don't work. So I wanted to know, what are you doing in those areas? And then also with the alerts, are they real time? Would they let an agency know, like the emergency response people, know that they need to be certain place? I know that was 3 questions at
That's
once.
okay.
but-
That's okay. I'm tracking them.
Okay.
So the first thing that I'll say is that the scope of the FloodNet project is specific to just building these tools to monitor urban flooding, and so we don't have an action arm to do work in relation to many of the things that you just named with regard to the question of what DP is going to do with the sewers. As far as the areas for Corona, we do have sensors deployed in East Elmhurst and Corona, but we're still deploying, right? And we're still working through this list of suggestions. The number of 1,000 suggestions is actually up until April of 2024. We are continuing to collect suggestions across all of the boroughs and hoping to feed that into what we have, which is part of why we want to make sure that as many people know about this project as possible, and also know about the limitations of the project, which you're pointing out right now, as far as like what do we do and what kind of solutions can exist in the future, for example, to deal with this issue of flood insurance. And the third question, I feel like I actually just lost it. What was it? Or did I answer it? Okay, yes, the alerting is real time. So our public dashboard as well, so the sensors are actually uploading data every single minute. They are always collecting information. And one of the things we didn't mention, it's the first time we didn't mention it, is that that would include bicycles and trash listed living under a sensor. And so we have built into the community engagement in, teaching folks about what the sensor is and what that it needs to be clear under it. And so the alerting as well is also happening in real time, but as we said, we're still developing mechanisms to make sure that alert is a real one and one that folks can understand.
Well, I just want to thank you, and Community Board 3 would love to work with you, but I implore you to get a warning system or something in place for communities, for people, because otherwise this becomes an insurance grab. Thank you very much.
Yeah, seeing Betty further down.
Thank you. Betty Brayton, Chairperson of Community Board 10. I want to thank Brett and company for being here. This has been, in terms of our community and its flooded area, one of the best things that has come in my lifetime. And I dealt with flooding all my life. The potential for good in communities all across the city from this project are absolutely immeasurable. The data is there. We've gotten a great deal of use from the data from the few sensors that are in our community. And all it has taken to do that is having, I have my Roger, and who interprets the data, puts out warnings to the community, explains it in layman's language. The ability to do that is giving the people in our community a much better sense of the day-to-day issues that we're all seeing with increased flooding. And in our case, it's tidal flooding. But in the areas throughout my district and in the borough of Queens where the flooding is rainwater related, these sensors also provide data that can be used, because we can see day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, what is actually happening. And it's helping us to get past the anecdotal, the stories that everybody has to say about this happened, that happened. We're able to see it and see the measurements, and then we're getting better at making predictions. And we're in budget season, and I would urge the borough president and all of the board to support this project. You know, it is something that should exist on every block in the city eventually, not just 1,000 sensors or 2,000. You know, if we had a city where we had, and I'm over-exaggerating, one on every block, but where we could accurately measure what's going on with catch basins, what's going on with rainwater, what's going on with just ponding conditions, and all of the storm events, we could be much better informed. So I just want to thank you for being here and explaining the project to my colleagues, and hopefully everybody gets involved in it because it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Further down.
Yeah. Is this on? Oh, good. I'm Rosamund Giannoutzos. I'm here for Anatol Ashraf and Community Board 2. And as I read the maps, I don't think you have any sensors in our area. But what I really, it's not that I'm asking for more or asking for sensors, but rather what we hear again and again is not so much the flooding on roadways. I mean, that can all be sort of dealt with, and so maybe there's a detour or a temporary thing. But in people's homes and in their basements, we had instances within the last couple of years of people who were killed in basements in Wynwood section. In Blissville, we get backups into sewage water that gets into their basements. So I don't want us to lose sight of that being a very significant problem. I don't have any much of a question out of it, but it's not that there's a problem with sensors. It's just we really have to do more. And I think paying attention to the larger causes in climate change, of course, I think we probably all agree, but just want to state that. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, because one other thing, there's so many things. So I think we do have sensors in Woodside, and that is as far as I think for Community Board 2 in the area, but yeah. But one of the things, like while this project is being led by academic researchers, we are also making available like how to build the sensor and the design. The technology is not specific to street flooding, but that is what our project is using it for. And so building partnerships, we have examples of people that are interested in making a version of a sensor that can live in a basement. We're hoping that in the future, some iteration of this project will also allow our dashboard to house a community sensor, but we are far away from there. And so what we're doing now is making the information, the how we make it, the when we make it, the technology, all parts of it as public as possible. And so that is on our minds. We haven't lost sight, and we have some partners in areas that, for example, like Chaya CDC doing a lot of work with basement flooding as well. So it is top of mind for the team. Thank you.
Heather Dimitriadis, Queens Community Board 6, Regal Park, Forest Hills. I completely understand why and how on the map you've prioritized certain communities, and I understand why our community why our district wouldn't have any at the time. But I think we would be interested in potentially suggesting a few. So I'm just curious as to the process, once the suggestions are made, sort of how the decisions are made as to whether or not that area gets this. And I also just want to say thank you for this work. This is going to, Betty's endorsement carries a lot of weight in my opinion, because between these three, they've really been through it. So when I think about the needs of my district, at some point it would be great to have this. So I just want to say thank you. And if I could just understand the process once we suggest, sort of how we get from suggestion to a decision.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. So essentially, the way that we process the sensor suggestions in waves. First of all, we gather a lot of them and then sort of process them together. And we spent a long time developing that process as a team. And basically now what we do is we just sort of cluster them all regionally, basically to make sure that we are addressing every area that has been suggested across the city and getting as broad of coverage as possible. So that's to say, basically, if there are suggestions in a neighborhood, that neighborhood will get a sensor or sensors. The way that we're then narrowing down within it, so it's like a density thing, and the way that we narrow down that density, where we have more suggestions in some neighborhoods than others, has a lot to do with just local considerations. I think we mentioned our sensors are mounted to drive rails. The DOT, yeah, like in the photo, DOT gives us permission to do that. So, you know, some drive rails are more ideally located for measuring flooding than others. So we just want to make sure that we install at the most ideal spots. We have the capacity as well to install drive rails for monitoring too. So anyway, it's the specific considerations, just trying to get as close to measuring a flood as we can on the ground. That's basically the way that we narrow them down. But yeah, again, every neighborhood, sort of slightly larger region that experiences flooding that gets suggested, we will work to install there. Yeah.
Lynette.
Again, thank you for your service. Thank you for this much needed work. The question is, I missed the portion of information you shared about the 3 sensors on Brookville Boulevard. What did you say occurred with those sensors? I missed that.
Yeah. So we worked with DOT to kind of identify the lowest points along the road, and just that we installed those 3 new sensors within the last couple of months. I forget exactly when. It was a long process to get them up. Because we had to do a lot of coordinating with DOT, exactly, to actually get that install to happen. But yes, so now they're up on the website, so you can go look at data from those sensors for the past few months. Yes.
Okay, I thought for some odd reason I thought you said they were not. It just flooded.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, just a very quick anecdote about Brookville Boulevard. The first time our engineer team went out to try to do an install with the DOT, the road was flooded, so they couldn't do the install. However, someone had gotten stuck off the road. They didn't see the shoulder, and they kind of drove off the road, and their car was sort of precariously balanced on the shoulder. And so our team of engineers actually ended up rescuing the driver, you know, from that vehicle and getting them to safety. So we didn't get any sensors installed that day, but the team still did some good. But anyways, yeah, that's Brookfield Boulevard, right? In a nutshell.
Yeah. Mohammed.
FloodNet actually covers the surface water, storm water. So in Southeast Queens is a different issues there. Once you say flood means their basement is flooded, then it comes to the street. So I have some kind of suggestions about in Southeast Queens. There are a lot of wells from Jamaica water supply left. Why didn't you try to do some research work to get the groundwater data from that wells? And that will make you a combination of the surface water and the groundwater. You guys gonna alarm the people before it's getting to the surface.
I'll let you say words about this, but this is something that comes up a lot for us, especially with the partners that we have in Hollis. and with Squaridge, Southeast Queens Environmental Resident Coalition. And it is a question that we get. We're limited by what the scope of the project is at the moment. But it is something that our academic regions, again, are trying to build partnerships with others who can do that work, including hydrologists at NYU and CUNY. So I'll let Brett speak a little bit more to that.
So I want we are working our borough hall. We are working with the neighborhood with different groups. We have a 250 house locations. They have a groundwater issue, and we plotted in the maps all the locations. If you can work with the borough president office, you are welcome. We can share all the maps and data with you guys.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of the nice things about this project being housed at two academic institutions, CUNY and NYU, is that when people bring issues to us, and that issue of the groundwater in Queens comes up over and over again, or in Southeast Queens, comes up over and over again. And sometimes if someone on our team isn't an expert on the issue, we'll reach out to our colleagues in other places. So for the groundwater in particular, I remember Andrea Scarborough, who's
yes, actually she provides us the locations.
Yeah.
And we're working with the U.S. Geographical Surveys,
Yeah.
and as well as DEC.
Yeah.
And we have the groundwater data, all the information we have.
Yeah.
We love to work with you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so we try to find, if we don't have the expertise for an issue and it's not directly related to FloodNet, we try to reach out to our colleagues and connect people, right? So so we had provided some names of some hydrologists at Queens College, right, who works on groundwater. But yeah, that's how we handle that, yeah. That's the sort of like the unseen hazard that that's coming, right, the groundwater.
Yeah, so just to wrap up questions on my end, can you just reiterate what the plan is going forward for additional sensors? You said you're about halfway to the 500 mark. When do you anticipate? I think I heard 2 years, but just wanted to get clarity on that.
Yeah, yeah, we're projected to have 500 by 2026, which I know is out there, right? But there's a lot that goes on. The team's constantly updating the technology of the sensors, so we don't want to rush out 500 and then have to replace 300 of them. So that's one consideration. And it's just a lot of it working out the logistics, et cetera. So the fact that we're on schedule, I should say. We had projected to have about 250 at this point, and we're there. So, so I think, by 2026 there'll be 500. But when there's 500, that's going to be a lot of sensors. That's going to be a lot.
Yeah, I would also just say that one ask is that if there is opportunities to attend your community board meetings themselves for us to be able to show up with our team, we'd love to do that. Specifically to your question, because our team is a small one, as you can see, we actually have only 2 field sensor engineers that go out and deploy all of the sensors that are currently on the ground and continue to maintain them. And likewise, we have a team of 2 to 3 that are developing the technology. So there are many things that we're doing and learning as we go. And I think we've done a lot of work that we're proud of that kind of help us move this along. But for the next few months, we're hoping to go back and take a look at the suggestions that we've collected. So now is the time to add other spaces as we continue to build. So it'll be a slow process, but we are moving along.
Community Board 3, Thursday, 7 o'clock. Provided, Langston Hughes Library.
All right, any further questions? All right, seeing none. So just want to thank the entire FloodNet team for their presentation and taking our questions. Yeah, we appreciate the hard work that you guys do for the city on the front lines of combating our climate crisis. We'll share around the presentation to those present as well. The tools being made available by FloodNet to our climate justice community is an invaluable resource as we try to further combat this climate crisis and prepare for emergencies as such. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us tonight. Want to thank the presenters as well. Our next Borough Board meeting will be Monday, February 10th. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.